The RSI Perseus is likely coming out this year at IAE in November, and it promises to be a relatively compact ship with a hefty amount of firepower. When I say relatively compact, I mean 100 meters in length, 50 meters in width, and 21 meters in height, per the concept. To many people, that's not small. But when you consider the size of the Aegis Hammerhead, for instance, a 120-meter heavy gunship with space for 6 gunners and additional crew, it puts the Perseus into perspective. This sub-capital deterrent comes with 2 size 7-man turrets rumored to possibly be size 8s by the time it releases that will definitely punch holes through ships anywhere from the Constellation series up into many popular large ships like the Hammerhead, Carrack, or Starlancer. And it could pose a threat to even larger ships like its brother the Polaris or the Idris, all with an effective crew of 6 to 8 people. But just because it can perform at this standard doesn't mean the game is ready for it. With those size 7 turrets, supported by 2 additional size 3 remote turrets and 20 size 5 torpedoes, there's a lot of potential in a ship like the Perseus for players looking to get into heavy combat engagements. The ship was originally created over 400 years ago in the 2520s, commonly deterring Xi'an advancement in star systems along the Peri line, bordering star systems like Castra and Nyx. But it eventually fell out of favor with the military and was discontinued until recent years in the 2940s as the Vanduul carried out war against the humans, which we will see firsthand in Squadron 42. Since then, they've been creating civilian variants as well, which are meant to be used by militias to engage with major threats like the Vanduul incursions in Nyx. From Star Citizen's perspective, this is one of several large ships on the backlog that players have wanted put into the game for a while, understandably, as they spent money on it back in 2020. After a few years of talking about capital ships needing to come into the game, along with the Polaris and the Idris, the Perseus represents increased focus on delivering these ships to players at a time when many of the game systems that support them seem to be making some progress into the game as well. Most notably, engineering will create a lot more potential gameplay in ships that are specifically larger and combat-oriented, as players will need to handle potential fires, repair components, and manage power systems. Along with most other ships of this size, that again are more combat focused, this is potential gameplay for those interested in engineering, the likes of what you might experience in FTL, Jump Space, or Void Crew. Placed in a more immersive first-person experience with plenty of ships and scenarios to deal with though. But it also acts as a deterrent and balancing mechanic that requires these larger and more powerful ships to sacrifice functionality and reliability for a more solo experience. You can fly the Perseus on your own, make use of its 50 SCU of storage and ability to carry vehicles, and even use it as a home base with no problem. But if you want to take out other ships and be a force to be reckoned with, engineering will make you think twice about taking this out versus something like a Meteor, Ares, or even Corsair. That's not to say computer or AI blades won't help you out in the future, but those are going to have their own trade-offs. The Perseus itself can act as a blockader or a single point show of power, but it is meant to operate in fleets where it can fill in the gaps, bouncing off smaller ships to an extent, but primarily sniping out medium to large ships that might cause trouble for the fleet flagships like the Idris and Javelin. And between the pilot, captain, 4 gunners, and the couple of engineers you may have on board, there could be a lot of fun to be had on a ship like this for a group of friends looking for long-term combat expeditions. But it lacks an armory, medical facilities, and a ship hangar to make it a true home base for you. And it fits more squarely as a light fortress that you would take with you, ceding a desired role to other more capable ships like the Polaris. This represents a good step up from something like a Paladin or a Redeemer, so expect it to stick squarely to the direct combat engagements. But all this talk of large combat engagements and the current lack of crucial features does beg the question, is Star Citizen actually ready for this ship? Many of you are probably looking at this ship and thinking it's just another opportunity for combat players to shoot you with big guns. And in a lot of cases, you'd be right. Star Citizen really does not offer a ton of game-supplied content that will keep a ship like this, let alone a full fleet, busy. And that's for the same reason a lot of the content in the game doesn't pop. We don't have the features, the scale, or the content ready to support a full-space MMO. This is specifically why we see so many small-scale combat ships in the game. Without engineering, reputation, large-scale AI encounters, in-depth scanning and radar, a ship damage system, player trading, deep medical gameplay, passenger transport, manual repair and rearming, or any other number of game features. A lot of the ships we want in-game and a lot of the ships currently in-game can be kind of boring. Unless, you like throwing yacht parties on your 890 jump. That's not to say there's nothing for this ship in-game. Outside of the obvious PvP and group-focused consensual battles you can set up, there are a few corners of Star Citizen that'll provide bite-sized fun for this ship. The higher-end bounties will provide larger targets like Connies, Hammerheads, and even sometimes Idrises. The occasional event like Hunt the Polaris or Xenothreat will pit you against larger numbers of enemies and larger ships. Foxwell red-level contracts in Stanton can bring in large targets, and in Pyro spawns literal swarms of AI-controlled ships. And new Gilly contracts at later stages can also give you some bigger enemies to go explode. But these are limited choices and not exactly tailor-made, and CIG is going to need to bring in more options for groups in these larger ships to have engaging, curated fun by the end of the year. The good news is that most of Star Citizen's development is taking advantage of Squadron 42 right now. That's why we've seen regular drops of PvE-focused combat missions and contracts throughout the year, and I think there's an opportunity for devs to scale these encounters up a bit over the next few months. But it's not just the content. Players will legitimately need to consider the large ships in their fleet when it comes to engineering and resource management. As we move further into the age of multi-crew in Star Citizen, more roles and jobs on the ship will be broken out and not necessarily available to the solo pilot for that 160-meter missile boat. With fuses and components able to take damage, ballistics able to run dry, and new flight mechanics making atmospheric flight more involved, this might not be the go everywhere and do everything 1 to 2 person quest runner that some players want it to be. It'll be slower, harder to support, and it's going to be a nice big target for those looking to cause trouble for others. The ship you're flying will make a difference to other players in the game when they see you, and flying a Perseus around will invite a fight from certain individuals, or groups. You'll need to be ready for potential PvP encounters in some areas and the difficulties that come with you if you want to be strutting around in a Perseus. From these difficulties of multi-crew to the current relative lack of large-scale challenging content and the slow rollout of crucial features for this ship type, CIG could be setting up another ship to be a fancy hangar prop for many and a floating behemoth spammed across the latest location for others. But the Perseus does introduce valid and useful combat potential to the game in a very nice looking package. And given the relatively small crew size, I do think it'll be a more realistic choice for groups than the Idris, Polaris, or even the Hammerhead. It looks like it'll be fun in the game to be, but I'm still hesitant to say it'll be necessary in the current game we have. If you're looking for a deeper dive into this ship, I covered it in detail over on Space Tomato 2 and regularly discuss progress on it during every monthly report, including the most recent, which indicated the ship is in the midst of its final art details right now. And if you're looking for more ship coverage, I'll be publishing more here on Space Tomato Gaming every month as well. You can find my last ship dive covering the RSI Apollo medical ship down below. Let me know what you think of the relatively compact high-power gunboat that is the Perseus in the comments as well, and whether you have plans to use it in ways I didn't describe here. Also, let me know what ship you'd like to see covered next, and consider subscribing so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching this until the end. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.